As you saw in the previous lesson, you need to know what kind of file you are going to provide for the user to be able to download. That's a bit inconvenient on your end if you need to provide the user with a wide variety of files, but it really isn't that hard to devise a general-purpose download servlet. Here's a servlet that's fairly flexible in what it allows to be downloaded. It uses the suffix on the end of the file name to determine what kind of file it is. If that's not convenient on your system, you might want to consider passing the MIME type as a third parameter. Anyway, here's how this one works. This one creates a file object for the file to be sent to the user. This file object is then used in the constructor to construct the input stream object, but its main purpose will come just a little bit later. Now this program tries to figure out the MIME types. It begins by setting the default MIME type to the application octet stream. This is sort of the catch-all type to indicate the file is filled with arbitrary data. Since it is a file that is being transmitted, just about anything can be transmitted this way by being transmitted as a stream of random octets. An octet is just another word for an 8-bit byte, and since the Internet transmits only 7-bit characters, any arbitrary data may require encoding before it is sent. The default MIME type is set, but this servlet goes on to try to determine the actual data type. It creates an uppercase version of the file name and checks the suffix of it to determine whether it fits with one of the known patterns. If the file is named with one of the suffixes known to this program, the correct MIME type is then selected. If you're going to use this technique on your system, you may want to extend this list to include any types that you'll be sending that I haven't included here. Now, these method calls set up the headers. The first one sets the content header to the selected MIME type. The second one adds the header information that causes the browser's download window to appear. The third one, the call to set content length, is the one that was added for this servlet. It uses the file object created earlier to specify the file length. Notice that the value has to be cast to an int. That's because the value returned from the file length method is a long, and it has to be narrowed to fit the int required in the method call. As you know, in Java, whenever you narrow a value this way, you have to cast it. Anyway, passing this size information to the browser makes it possible for the browser to display a progress bar as it downloads. And that's about all you can do. This program tells the browser where the file is, how big it is, and what kind of data it holds. From this point on, it's up to the browser. Here's the page that brings up this servlet. This page has a URL that invokes Servlet 2 with a PDF file. The servlet should figure out just what kind of file it is and transmit the information to the browser. Here is the application. Selecting the second download page will bring up the page linked to the new servlet. And selecting download will bring up the information produced by the new servlet. This is the download window. You can see where the file name is listed on the title bar and at the top of the window. Here is a translation of the description supplied as the MIME type. And I take the default location and file name. And the file starts to download. I selected a large PDF file so it would be slow enough that you could see the progress bar. Remember, it could only show this progress bar because the size of the file was provided as part of the header information. The actual appearance of the progress bar will vary from one browser to another. Most of the modern browsers have a window like this that they call the Download Manager, and it contains a list of everything that has been downloaded. You can cancel the download in progress. You can even delete members from this list, but that doesn't delete the files if they've already been downloaded. If you are going to be doing a lot of downloading, I suggest that you experiment with some different browsers and see what sort of things you get.